What is going on, guys? I'm Bert, and I'm doing a video today talking about to save the manuals or not to save the manuals. This is the question that Bert will be answering in this video today. Welcome to my BMW M2, my 2016 F87 M2. More specifically, this is the manual M2. So this has the 6-speed manual transmission, and I'm going to be talking about whether I think as a car community we should really be trying to save the manual transmission. And I have an interesting perspective that I think you guys might want to hear, especially being Polish and coming from Europe. I think there's an interesting perspective that I have, and maybe a bit of a controversial opinion on the manual transmission. So stick with me, let's talk about the manual transmission. Now, a little bit of backstory, because I think the backstory here is very important. This is not only my BMW M2 and my manual BMW M2, but this is my first manual car. Now, I've driven manual a couple times before owning this car, but for all intents and purposes, I had to relearn when I bought this car, because it was like 8 years prior to owning this car. That was the last time I drove a manual. Essentially, like I said, for all intents and purposes, I had to relearn from scratch how to drive it. And now I can drive it no problem. I love it, it's a fun time. And now I'm coming up on the 1-year mark of owning this car. I bought it in October of last year. So currently it's late August, so I've had the car for 10 months. So for all intents and purposes, we could say I've had this car for a year. With that, I can kind of talk about this car from the perspective of my first manual experience. So let me start off by saying, yes, I think we do need to save the manual transmission, and I think we need, as a car community, to keep the manual alive. However, as a car community, I think we do need to stop putting so much emphasis and pressure on people to get manuals, because from the one hand, I understand it's more engaging and that you become a little bit more connected to your car and that you're manually shifting the gears. I get it. However, I think to say that that is the only way and the only proper way to drive a car, and that's the only proper car is with a manual transmission, I think is a load of garbage. Because I think we have to remember that the manual transmission was pretty much how the transmission started, and it evolved from there. And for whatever reason, the car community has taken a huge attachment to this little stick in the middle of the car. And what I don't understand is, why have we taken such an attachment to this but nothing else? Like, oh, your car doesn't have a carburetor on it, you're not a proper car guy. Oh, you have push to start, you don't have to actually turn your key. Oh, you're not a proper car guy, I don't think so. Oh, you start your engine with a key, you don't have to get out of the car and crank the engine. Oh, no, you're not a real car guy. At what point do we as car enthusiasts have to draw the line? For me, this is like the perfect balance of manual and not manual. Because more specifically, what I'm referring to are the people that, like, you can buy a manual, but then they're like, oh yeah, that's nice to have a manual, but then they'll ask you like, oh well, do you rev match it or do you have auto rev match? And then it's like, are you serious? Like, really? Like, that's what as a car community you guys care about? I think that's just absolutely stupid. I think that's stupid, and I think this is the perfect blend. I do wish that, yes, you could turn the auto rev match option off on this car without turning off all the traction, because if you do want the option, it would be nice to have it. But personally, I like having rev match. I like being able to use the clutch pedal and the gear stick to change gears. I don't want to have to manually blip the throttle every time I downshift, and I don't want to have to go all these extra lengths. Like, a manual is a manual. Like, that's it. If it has tiny little assists, and then same thing with like hill assist. Like, I've talked to some people online that say, oh, it's not a true manual because it has hill assist, so you don't roll backwards. Like, in my opinion, that's absolutely pathetic that as a car community, that's how we're gatekeeping now. So let me now get in the car, we'll go for a little drive, I'll touch on a little bit more about my thoughts and why I think my Polish background matters when it comes to manuals. So let me flip the camera into the car and do all the magical behind the scenes stuff, and we'll go for a drive. Alright, now that we're on the road, we can actually start talking about the manual transmission a bit more. Now, absolutely fun being able to drive, shift gears, rip it, big fun. Love it, 100%. However, I think it's a bit overrated. And let me talk a little bit about my European perspective in all this. The car enthusiasts in America, like, oh, manual or nothing. But then you go to Europe and it's like every shit box in Europe is a manual. Like, no one cares. Like, everyone in Europe can drive a manual and no one cares. Like, it's so funny, like, seeing the American market for a manual or not the market, the American enthusiast just talk about a manual like it's the best thing since sliced bread. And then you go to Europe and it's like, oh, my car, manual, maybe has second gear, maybe no gear, I don't know. And it's hilarious to me. Like, when they introduced the automatic transmission, the automatic is supposed to be an upgrade from the manual. And in most cases, it is an upgrade. Now, a traditional kind of sloppy automatic transmission, yeah, they're garbage and you don't really get any enjoyment out of them. And I can understand choosing a manual over something like that in like a normal car, or over a CVT altogether. Like, CVT transmissions are just garbage, and I would know, I own one. But as time went on, we upgraded the automatic transmissions, and then we created the F1 gearbox, which I believe it was Ferrari that first debuted it in their cars in the 355 and then in the 360. And at the time, everyone thought it was the coolest thing because, well, it's F1 technology that has made its way into a road car, and it's really cool. It still has a clutch in the car, it's shifted electronically via paddles. Personally, I'm a big fan of the F1 gearbox and the dual clutch gearboxes. I think they are so cool, and I think they're a fantastic improvement over a manual. Now, with that said, I do think that the DCT box is a much better box than the manual in this car. And in general, I think they're fantastic, and I think they are the way to go. It depends what you want out of a car. Because if you just want like a weekend cruiser, then a manual could be fine for you. But if you want to actually like be able to rip your car around and, you know, cycle through the gears very, very quickly, if you care about lap times and stuff like that, and if you like that jerky violence that a DCT gives, get a DCT. And with that too, if you drive your car more often, I would say get the DCT box, honestly, or like a really phenomenal automatic like a ZF8, because the car is ultimately going to perform better. It's just you're really getting the manual for the novelty of going like this. And while it is cool to be able to do that and to shift gears, yeah, it's cool, but like that's about it. Like, in my opinion, I think the manual, yes, it's a cool novelty, but that's all it is just a novelty. It's a relic of an age that is really no longer here. Let me compare it to a watch. So I have a watch. This one's only like a $200-$300 watch. It's nothing crazy. It's not like a $3,000, $4,000 watch, but it is a manual watch, or at least in the watch community, we call this an automatic watch, which is basically a manual watch, but it'll wind itself as you walk and move your wrist. You have all these little cool bits and bobs that do magic inside the watch, and I know what they're all called. It's just for whatever reason, making this video now, like I don't remember any of the names of what's inside the watch. Like I'm drawing a blank. I don't remember a single part that's inside the watch. And yeah, I know just about every single part in there. But besides the point. The point is, this is a novelty. You don't need this. You can go to Walmart and buy a quartz-driven, battery-powered watch that'll be cheaper and tell time better, 100%, than a watch like this. And yet, for whatever reason, we're drawn to these. To the art, to the finesse inside, to the gears, to the manual nature of it. And I think that's very similar to a manual transmission in that, in a way, it is a piece of art that needs to be preserved and it needs to survive, but it's also a novelty that really serves no other purpose than just being a novelty. Yes, it's fun to shift your own gears, but a dual clutch will do it better. It'll be faster. It's just as cool, in my opinion, to flick paddles and have instantaneous gear shifts that kick you in the back. I think that is just as cool as doing this. There is something to be said for shifting gears yourself. I do have to admit, and I do enjoy it. Don't mistake this video as, you know, I don't enjoy doing it or I wish I had an automatic instead of this. I just think that as a car community, we all need to collectively shut the fuck up about manuals as a gatekeeping for people to not enjoy whatever car they want to enjoy. Because inevitably, if I bought this car again in a DCT, someone out there would say, oh, you got the DCT, you didn't get the manual, that's not fun. And it's like, shut the fuck up. Like, we need to stop that shit as a car community. Yes, I think we need to save the manual, because just like the beauty of a watch that has gears and stuff working inside it and doing all its beautiful finesse, and it needs to be saved, because this is also a dying thing. My honest perspective is, yes, we should be saving manuals and the manual transmissions, but we do need to also treat them as just a novelty, because in reality, that's all they are. They are just a novelty that if we don't preserve it, it will go away, but it's nothing more than that. I don't want to start rambling and just going on in circles and talking about the same thing over and over, but that's really my final opinion on the manual transmission. Is it's a load of fun, and I would honestly encourage anyone and everyone to buy one and at least experience one. However, we need to treat them for what they are. They are a novelty and nothing more. That's my input on it. Let me know what you guys think, because I think my opinion may be a bit controversial, that all this is just a novelty for the sake of just having it and it being a novelty. And for all intents and purposes, everything else out there is objectively better nowadays. So let me know what you guys think, because surely I can't be alone in this mindset. Surely I'm not the only one that thinks this. And like I said, especially coming from Europe, it's a very different mindset. So let me know what you guys think, and leave me a comment, like if you like the video, and subscribe if you want to see more videos. And that's gonna be all for now. So thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time.